with the advancement in technology the last few years, I think we're getting closer and closer to a place where AI can actually internalize what you are trying to do and then help you in that goal. And I think once you get to that point, then it'll be a very delightful experience for all our users. Typically, these innovations happen over years and decades, but all that is compressed into spans of months. So that's why I call it, amorphous to some extent, because there is no playbook.
Until a few years ago, the idea that you would chat with your phone or your laptop as if you were talking to another person, like, going back and forth, having a full-blown conversation, that was mostly the stuff of science fiction. Then ChatGPT comes along and, well, you know the rest. For an increasing number of people, chat is becoming this primary interface for getting stuff done, right up there with a mouse and keyboard. Take Dropbox, for example, which uses AI to put all your company's content and knowledge right at your fingertips. Say you want to understand a dense legal document, find some misplaced photo, or get a summary of everything your team has been working on this week, all you have to do is ask. And interface, I think, is actually a pretty good word for what's happening here. Because unlike a conversation with an actual person, the chatbot is really just a front for all these different helpers or AI agents that work together behind the scenes to get you what you need.
My name is Jongmin Baek, and I'm a principal machine learning engineer at Dropbox. So my team and the teams I work with are responsible for building the agents that power Dash. So these are the chat agents that you talk to that might compose messages for you or do research into various systems that are connected to it.
Or, and this is a big one, the ability to search all your stuff, no matter where it might be stored.
A lot of the value that Dropbox provides through Dash is that all your data is there. So whether you have files that live in Dropbox or other cloud storage that you have connected to, Dropbox and Dash can connect that, and then we process them so that they're made available to the agents as tools.
And that is how Dropbox has been building AI that actually understands your work and the stuff that matters to you. And along with Jongmin, one of the people responsible for making that experience the best it can be is Marta Mendez.
I'm a senior machine learning engineer working in Dash Chat. So I actually pivoted careers. Like my background was on telecommunications engineering, and I was working on satellite communications, giving internet to yachts, cruises. And I was like, I'm not the user of this. Like we were dealing with captains, right? And I really like tech. So I was like, I want to build features that I get to use and then that I get to show, because it's like so exciting to be able to see your work working for people.
And who among us hasn't had the experience of using an AI assistant that simply will not do what you want it to do, no matter how many different ways you ask?
It's very frustrating to try to work with an LLM when you're like, what I'm describing to you is already reasonable. This is not a hard ask. Why are you just not following my instructions?
So how do you build AI that works for people? It all starts with chat and the AI agents that keep the answers coming. I'm Matthew Braga, and this is Working Smarter, a podcast from Dropbox about how AI is changing the way we work and get stuff done. Today, I'm talking to Jongmin Baek and Marta Mendez, two Dropbox machine learning engineers, about building AI that you actually want to talk to, that's helpful and knowledgeable and knows exactly what you're looking for and understands what you need to get things done. That's coming up next on Working Smarter. Okay, so before you had chatbots and LLMs, if you wanted to find a file or a piece of information to share with a colleague, there was search. That's actually what Marta used to work on at Dropbox, and it laid the foundation for the chat experience that exists in Dash today.
Search, you can think about it as the way to retrieve your files, very keyword-based. You had to remember the name of the folder or like the name of the file that has an image, whereas nowadays you can describe what you're looking for and you can find a match. Chat is the new world where everything is conversational, and the idea here is that we use LLMs to try to break it down into search requests that we can execute then to surface the relevant information and give you back a conversational response. For example, like find me an image of a dog playing, right? In my personal Dropbox, I think I have like almost 2 terabytes of like multimedia content, right?
Of just dog photos?
Maybe. I have my dog here as well, so most likely. You cannot expect chat to just be able to throw 2 terabytes of data there, right? And surface the relevant images for you. You cannot just throw anything or everything to an LLM because it has to like access it, reason through it, like it would take forever. So search is still a key step for any chat that needs to have access to your personal information.
Okay.
So we are building on top of all those capabilities that we had on search. And now we're adding the flexibility of you kind of like just think what you need and you trust the agent to decompose it into the retrieval needs that you have. So you no longer have to think in a search world, how would I find this file? Or even worse, like if you're not using search and you're using browse, like you actually have to go click by click, right? And you're just thinking and letting the agent do the heavy lifting for you. So making sure you have a good search engine that can give you like the relevant results so that the LLM can decide what to explore versus kind of like discard. That's the key point. And that's what I've been working on lately in chat.
Can you walk me through step by step what happens from the moment someone sits down and they're typing in a query or they're asking Dash to do something? What happens from the moment that I say, hey, can you find all those pictures of my dog from, vacation last month?
It's actually beautiful in the sense that it's quite simple. What's going to happen is that we are going to send this user request in freeform text to the chat agent. What the agent is going to do is it's going to reason through your question and it has access to certain tools. So for example, searching or reading a document, it's kind of like what a human would do, right? Like first you search, then you inspect the results and you're like, which one do I like? So when chat agent receives your request, it's going to think, okay, can I answer directly? If it cannot reply directly with the content that it has, it's going to say, okay, I need to search. It's going to select out of the tools that it has access to, then the time filter so that you start like from last month to today. It sends the search request to the search engine and it's going to return the 20 top results that you have access to. At that step, it's like, I don't need to read any documents because I already have access to the results. It generates a conversational response based on your query, like, hey, like I found like these 5 photos that you took last month. So it will show you those images.
So there's the query goes into the LLM decides which tools to call, and then based on what the LLM gets back from these tools, that is how it determines what response to give you back in the user interface.
And we call this pattern react because it's kind of reason, then act. You're acting through the tools, then you reason again, and then you act.
Okay.
So that's like the technical name for this type of pattern.
When we talk about the logic that determines how an agent should behave and the tools it has at its disposal, how much of that is us defining that logic and kind of nudging the LLM to make the right decision, and how much of it is just the LLM determining that itself?
That's us.
Okay.
So the LLM has the reasoning capabilities. It does a lot of the heavy lifting for us, but this is where we can shine and really differentiate one agent from another in the tools it has access to. So I want to give an example of Agentic RAG.
Sure, that would be great. And just to be clear, when you say RAG, you mean retrieval augmented generation, which is something we talked a little bit about on the last episode. And that's when you augment an LLM's training data with additional content or knowledge so that the responses you get are more tailored or personalized to you and the work you do, correct?
Yes, there is traditional RAG. Okay, so here, the typical thing to answer a user query, right? Like a question about a document would be to first search for the relevant documents. Second, get the actual file, right? Like the text context, and figure out which chunks, which paragraphs, for example, are relevant to answer that question. That was kind of like a pipeline, a workflow, right? Now with Agentic RAG, we give more power to the LLM to make the right decisions. So yes, it searches. We decide what filters it should have access to try to find the right files faster. File type filter, connector, people filter, Yeah, like you decide those parameters. And then the output is super important because instead of trusting that the search engine is going to give you the best quality results, you allow the LLM to actually look at the metadata of those results to decide which ones are actually useful to answer the query. So here in Agentic RAG, instead of us like giving everything, the LLM can choose which of the results are interesting to continue with the rest of the pipeline. So the choice of which tools are available, what are the inputs, and very important, what are the outputs, is how you help the LLM to make the most of the high reasoning capabilities that it has.
Right. And this is because LLMs have gotten so good at doing that reasoning that we can allow them to do that.
Exactly. Before you would be like, no, I'm going to trust that search ranking is going to give me the top 5 results are always great. So I'm always going to read the full document content. And then I'm going to do the context selection. It's kind of, you're accumulating error as you go. Whereas if you give like the full document content to the LLM, it has full fidelity in the answer it can produce.
So there's a whole other component here that's basically just how do we present all of this to the user? We are bringing them along on this journey and showing them, hey, there's stuff happening behind the scenes. Like how do you do that?
So typically what you would see is the agent is actually giving you progress updates as to what it's doing, but we are not showing the full reasoning. We are curating what we show to the user to make it a better user experience. This is a design choice, I guess, like also like product choice on like how much level of detail do you want to show to the user. Knowing that the goal is not to see updates, the goal is to give you an answer. Depending on the complexity of what you're asking a system to do, as a user, you have more or less patience, right? So if you say, like, find me images of a cat from last month, and it takes, imagine, 15 seconds, you may be disappointed. If you see the response and you're like, oh, wow, this was actually great, and I don't think I would have been able to do that myself, right? Then you're okay waiting for longer.
So it's a balance.
Exactly. But seeing the thought is like super useful. One, to be okay waiting a little bit longer. And second, to understand if it's going the wrong direction and giving a little bit more context. So you can be like, hey, I saw you searching for the images in Google Drive. But no, like the images are in Dropbox. You can help give more context to the agent via the conversation, which is like exactly the way to do it. And you already know where it went wrong. You already know like what things it was trying to do and like how you want to steer the direction that the agent is taking. LLMs are amazing when you are providing it the right context, like enough context to help you with your request. So the moment you see that it's searching the wrong information, you can help redirect.
So there's the chat experience that the user sees, and then you have the AI agents that power it, that fetch and reason and sift through your content to find that one elusive nugget of knowledge you need. And that's where Jongmin comes in. You've been at Dropbox for a long time now, 12 years, in fact. What has kept you here?
One thing that I really love about Dropbox is that you're encouraged to take ownership of problems and wear as many hats as you like. And especially with, the way and the speed at which the industry has transitioned into AI, it makes for a lot of opportunities, not only machine learning, but all these adjacent areas for one to learn. And it's been exciting, scaling myself and learning about all these other things that are adjacent to machine learning. And, I'm happy about the opportunities that, I've had working on cool things and fun things like, agent development. And it's, very amorphous and vague challenge at times, especially with the speed at which AI moves these days. But we try to keep up, do good collaboration across teams, and ship good features.
When you say amorphous challenge, can you say more? Like how so?
A lot of new paradigms come and go. And for a team that tries to build a meaningful AI product on top of these innovations, you have to carefully balance building good foundations and also making sure that you adopt the new paradigms so that you can ship state-of-the-art things. Typically, these innovations happen over years and decades, right? And there is time for both academic labs and industry to do benchmarking, go down a path and decide that this is not it, or maybe this is it. But all that is compressed into spans of months, right? So that's why I call it, amorphous to some extent, because there is no playbook.
So it's been up to Jongmin and his team to help write it.
We are trying to build an agent that tries to extract insights from your ongoing projects and your collaborators. We have agents that tries to summarize what has happened since the last time you logged on. And there are other agents that interact with Dropbox as a file system. You could tell it to say, every time PDF is uploaded, summarize it, and then put the total from a receipt in this Excel sheet, things like that. One of the interesting complexities of building and shipping agents, which is that none of this is deterministic.
Which, in other words, means you're not necessarily going to get exactly the same answer or response each time, right?
Yes. You're talking to an LLM and giving instructions through natural language for the most part. So this means that you need to have evaluation guardrails that basically tells you how often and how well agent follows the instructions that you expect it to follow, and how good the outputs or the outcomes are of what the agent has returned as a message or the actions that's taken.
How do you ensure that an agent actually does what the user expects it to?
There are several paradigms for evaluating, agents and their executions. So one is the most expensive, but it's the gold standard, which is humans, right? So you ask people to evaluate the particular thing that AI did and say, is this good? Is this correct? We rely on this pattern for a lot of sanity checks and evaluations on the generic things that agents can perform. The place where it gets tricky is a lot of the tasks that we want agents to do for Dropbox and Dash are very contextual. So if you want the agent to come and fetch, the latest updates in your project, you're really the only person that can decide whether the update was proper or not. You could automate this to some extent and evaluate certain aspects, like was the agent's update grammatically correct and had the right tone. So all these things are things that you can ask an LLM to evaluate. And these days, LLMs do a good job. And that's the basis for a lot of automated evaluations that run on all the executions that we have. But the tricky part is, how do you build data as an evaluation where you hope to mimic the contextual nature of the things that the agents are supposed to do? You want to converge your automated evaluation with your manual evaluation. So the former is much cheaper and scalable, but less accurate. The latter is accurate, but more expensive. So now there is a lot of meta evaluation work that happens across industry where you try to converge the two in some automated way. So this is something that we do a lot at Dropbox to tune the automated evaluation we use to mimic human evaluation as much as possible. In order to scale the automated evaluation we have and make sure that the quality at least converges towards that of human evaluation, we have, continuous inputs to the human evaluation as a form of labels. So, people say this is right or this is wrong. And then you can do this, meta prompting where you try to see if the LLM that you use to automate evaluation gives the same judgment as humans did on the data set that humans actually annotated. And once they converge, then you have a slightly stronger conviction that the large-scale automated evaluation it does on your unlabeled conversations that the agent has will be, informative in terms of its quality.
Is the idea that you keep refining that prompt until it gets closer and closer to what a human would rate the response or the output?
That's right.
Okay. And how are we at that?
I just mentioned, we're going to automate the automation by using LLMs to evaluate the agents. And then we try to match that to human performance. But that process itself can be automated.
Okay.
Right. So we have LLMs that automatically tune the judges right? Until they converge to human performance.
Okay. So there is a layers of automation on automation basically happening here.
That's right.
So by going through this process, this is how you're able to measure whether the outputs you're getting are getting better or worse over time?
Yes. So this, once it's working, provides a automated large-scale evaluation of your agent's sessions. And the nice thing about it is you can apply it to sessions that happen, or you can evaluate a new agent on past data that you had before, that you have collected as a data set, in order to validate new behavior from a new agent.
Okay.
So imagine you added a new tool. Maybe you have a better tool than the previous tool you had. Then you can backtest your new agent that's equipped to a newer tool against past data, and then have the same LLM that was acting as a judge decide or evaluate whether the sessions were proper. So once you have it set up and you trust the setup, it becomes sort of a flywheel. But of course, it's important to have humans in the loop to decide that the overall systems are working as intended.
As the models that we're using continue to get better, does that make the quality that we get of that evaluation better as well?
Generally, yes. But you have to keep in mind that we had this automated loop to tune the agents to the given setup, which includes the choice of model. So sometimes you see that after you swap out the model, the performance is lower because everything was optimized for the previous model that we had. But then the exercise becomes, well, can we apply the same techniques, same optimizations, same automation to the new model, right? And then retune the agent to play nice with this given model. And generally, that improves things over the baseline.
Of course, because the models aren't deterministic, it means the results are going to be a little bit different, like the delivery may vary. And so through the evals, you're looking more for consistency of the response rather than the response being exactly the same every time.
That's right.
Okay.
In natural language, there are 10, 100 different ways to say the same thing, right? And they might all be valid rendition of the information the agent's supposed to provide. But that's also the nice thing about using LLMs as evaluation, right? Because you can now ask LLM, given this message or this output generated by an LLM, does it make sense? Is it equivalent semantically to what we're looking for? But again, you're not going to always get the same judgment from the LLM that's doing evaluation. So, you can see how this interesting issues compound. So it's a fun challenge to deal with.
Speaking of fun challenges, how do you strike that balance between letting the agents do things autonomously on a user's behalf, but not giving it so much agency that it can, get into some trouble, like deleting all your documents or sending a rude email?
I think you probably have seen people equate agents to a junior employee or intern, right? They're smart. They're capable. They can do things that you instruct them to do, but sometimes they mess up. And that's why it's important to have safeguards, right? And oftentimes the safeguard is just, not letting your intern do certain things, right? Don't give your intern production access to the critical databases. But from Dropbox perspective, a lot of that actually, entwines nicely with the platform. So as an example, if you give agents access to file system, they can use it for many new capabilities, but they can also, wipe your hard drive, right?
Yep.
But this is a problem that Dropbox as a product has dealt with in the past, right? We have people who delete their files on Dropbox by mistake, or people whose accounts get taken over by ransomware. And as a feature, Dropbox offers people the ability to look at version history for files and then rewind as needed. I think we're actually very well set up with the right primitives to put useful and trustworthy guardrails to what agents can do.
When we are talking about all of the infrastructure that we are building to support agents, allow us to run agents, are you able to break those systems down, or like just kind of help explain sort of where does everything fit? Like how many kind of different components are there, and what do they all kind of do to help enable all of the stuff that we're talking about?
In the center, you have your agents that run LLMs, which means you need to have the compute resources to run the computation LLM needs. And then you have your what you call the agent harness, or the business logic that controls how agent behaves.
Okay.
So, what are the tools available? In what steps is it supposed to do things? It's supposed to plan first, or is it supposed to run a search first to start with, right? That kind of behaviors. And then you're surrounded by a number of systems that provide these tools, right? And that's a very important and nice abstraction boundary that allows teams to iterate independently. So you have a team that builds a system that's exposed as a tool. Like it could be, the biggest one that we have is the search and retrieval system we have. They can work on innovations that allow you to, for instance, index files more quickly or surface more relevant files with the right metadata, and then expose that API through tools. And then on the agent side, we can work on improving the agents to best leverage the tools that are available to it. Then there's like a number of support systems like, once you have these conversations with the agent, you need to persist them so that when user comes back and say, hey, I want to ask a follow-up question, right? They can pick up right where you left off. So all the standard considerations, for, storage, persistence, retention, privacy, security, all that applies. Dropbox is home to users' most important, cherished information they store. I think it makes sense for us to try to allow the users to leverage the information they have on the cloud, including Dropbox, to their full potential. And it's made certainly easier and more possible with the advent of LLMs and agents. And there's a lot of capabilities there to be unlocked for users. Something that we had tried in the past, marrying AI and machine learning with, Dropbox as a product. And it's been that, oftentimes there is some impedance between the way that we envision automation to work and the way users lay out their files in their head, right? AI is only useful to the extent that it doesn't frustrate you, right? If you are someone who has a particular way of organizing files, the moment the AI breaks it, the trust is lost. But with, the advancement in technology the last few years, I think we're getting closer and closer to a place where AI can actually internalize what you are trying to do and then help you in that goal. And I think there's some magical threshold where, okay, this is behaving more like what a human assistant would. And I think once you get to that point, then, it'll be a very delightful experience for all our users.
And from the sounds of it, it's actually been a pretty delightful experience for both Marta and Jongmin getting to build all of this stuff too.
The world is changing. Like the coding agents are honestly like mind-blowing. I'm no longer trying to code myself. Like even if I know what lines I need to change, it's going to take me longer to try to find the file and like make the edits myself. So it's kind of like everything is now spinning up agents. Like I heavily use Claude Code nowadays for everything, not just coding, but also synthesizing information. Coding is just one thing, but the fact that I work in chat agent, right? And the fact that I use agents to help me develop, allow me to see like what AI is really capable of nowadays to try to get ahead of the curve also on like personal things, which is very, very exciting.
I try to take a perspective that, my job is to solve complex problems. And while, it's a very simple thing to say in a vacuum, almost always it involves people, logistics, constraints that are both technical and non-technical. And working on these fields sometimes means that, there's an outage, late evening, you have to, go fix a misbehaving agent or something that is bombarding your GPUs with requests for, due to a bug, right? But I think all in all, like being absorbed in this endeavor with all my colleagues, I think, that's something that I cherish.
That's it for today, but if you were expecting to hear more about my cats or Marta's dog...
I mean, right now, the models are really, really good at detecting and recognizing dogs, actually.
Okay. So we don't even need to do that.
Yeah, I think they are even better than humans at doing this.
What do you do if your work involves photos or video or anything that's not text? How can AI help here? That's on our next episode of Working Smarter. We'll see you then. Working Smarter is brought to you by Dropbox. Find, organize, and share your work all in one place with context-aware AI from Dropbox. You can listen to more episodes of Working Smarter on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. And you can also find more interviews like this one on our website, workingsmarter.ai. Working Smarter would not be possible without the talented team at Cosmic Standard, producer Ben Montoya, sound engineer Asia Simpson, technical director Jacob Winnick, and executive producer Eliza Smith. Special thanks to our illustrator, Fanny Lohr, and to Megan Ellingbow for marketing support. Our theme song was composed by Doug Stewart, and I'm your host, Matthew Braga. Thanks for listening.